I'm Professor Stefan Schmidt, Professor of Political Science. As you know, there is a very big controversy over whether human activity is a major cause of global climate change. And I will argue the case that human activity is a major contributor to the warming of the earth and generally climate change. Burning fossil fuels, especially in the 20th century, really raised the CO2 levels, and the CO2 levels on Earth are the highest they've been in 650,000 years. That's a long time. There is, secondly, evidence that human-produced CO2 is what is warming the Earth, not natural CO2 that's released from, for example, the ocean and other what are called carbon sinks. There is a lot of research that shows that CO2 from fossil fuel burning has a very specific characteristic. It's called an isotopic ratio that's different from the CO2 that's released naturally. And 20th century measurements of those CO2 isotope ratios in the atmosphere show that the rise is basically correlated with human activity and really not natural processes. The third major point that we have to make is that human-produced greenhouse gases will continue to accumulate in the atmosphere, causing climate change because the Earth's forests, oceans, and other carbon sinks cannot adequately absorb these greenhouse gases. The carbon sinks essentially take CO2 out of the atmosphere and store it somewhere. So that we are seeing that these natural places that take carbon out of the atmosphere can only absorb about half, 50% of the CO2 that is produced by human beings. Number 4, greenhouse gas emissions and not changes in the radiation of the sun are causing climate change. There are measurements in the upper atmosphere from about 1979 until I think 2009 show that the sun's energy has gone up and down in cycles, but no net increases in CO2. While warming is occurring in the atmosphere, in the lower atmosphere called the troposphere, the stratosphere, the upper atmosphere, is actually cooling. So if the sun was driving temperature change, there would be warming in the stratosphere also and not cooling. So that's a pretty interesting scientific piece of evidence that the sun's energy has not really had the effect on the warming of the planet. Computer models also show that increased levels of human-produced greenhouse gases will cause global warming and climate changes, although the models are uncertain about how much future warming will occur or exactly how it will affect the climate. All of these computer models agree that changes will happen. And the fact that there is some uncertainty exactly how much and how it will affect it, this uncertainty does not change the scientific reality, I think, the evidence that human activity is causing a lot of this. So human-produced CO2 is changing the climate conditions of the world's oceans as well. As you know, most of the Earth is covered in water and consists of oceans. the excess CO2 that is produced by human activity is absorbed by oceans, and the acidity levels of oceans has gone up, which is very dangerous for reefs and for fish and for other ocean life. And the oceans have absorbed about 48% of the total CO2 that's released by human activities. And this is something like 30% higher than prior to human fossil fuel use. It is also true that approximately an 8-inch rise in the ocean level has occurred between roughly 1961 and 2003. And we think that most of it is due to global warming. Global sea levels keep going up. Waters are warming. The melting of glaciers and ice caps and polar ice sheets is increasing the amount of water in the oceans. And the sea level rises since the Industrial Revolution, and roughly started to measure those in about 1870, is consistent and is I think, a good indicator of what is going on. So my own view is that the evidence and the research, this consensus among scientists, is sufficient that we should accept the caution and the conclusion that human activity is a major contributor to climate change. And because there is so much consensus, we should be on the side of caution. We should not take more risks, and we should assume that we need to reduce the human activities, change energy uses, and so on, so that we will slow down the human impact on all this, because the consequences clearly, if this is correct, and if we continue in that direction, are extremely dangerous and threaten many of the ecosystems of the planet, and even threaten the habitats that human beings occupy, because we live on the smallest portion of the earth, which is dry land. Most of it is water. So if the sea levels rise, it's very difficult for human beings to survive in water and underwater. So my conclusion is the science is very good, and the consensus is in favor of human activity causing a substantial part of global climate change. Thank you.